Hey, what's up you guys? My name's Rugge. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'm finally giving you a tour of our gecko room. So it's mostly crested geckos in here, close to 200, I believe, geckos that we have in this room alone, which is kind of insane. So we mostly breed crested geckos, although we do have a few other species as well that are really cool that we keep in here that we also breed. So I'm obviously going to show you guys those as well. Also, the majority of the geckos that we have right now are geckos that are for sale and are probably only going to be here temporarily, hopefully. Our morph market will be linked down below where we have available geckos listed. Please buy some. If you're looking for a gecko, you know where to go. And I'll also have our pet store linked down below as well if you guys need to pick up any supplies. And yeah, without further ado, here is a tour of our gecko room. All right, so the very first thing you notice when you walk in the room, of course, is this big wall of enclosures. We'll get to there, but technically the very first thing you run into is our cart. So I'm gonna introduce you to our cart. So we need to have a cart in this room because this is like the only place where we can like set things down. Little cart tour, what's on my cart? I usually just keep this in the middle of the room, but anyways, we have trays. So we usually, along with trays, have, well, we have gloves. We have gloves. Rapashi Calcium Plus. You can buy it on our website. It's also the gloves on that. Lots of clean cups, camera lens, hand sanitizer, microfiber towel that I use to wipe the glass of enclosures before I film to create the illusion that geckos do not walk through their food and track it all over the glass and poop all over the doors. A loop for sexing geckos, scale, some containers with babies in them, not baby crested geckos, don't worry, these would be a little small. This container has two baby Pseudogekko smaragdinus in it, and this one has one of our baby Cyrtodactylus elok. These guys hatch pretty recently, within the last like month, so they're teeny tiny still, which is why they're in these little containers, but I move them up soon once they're more established. Aside from the cart, which is probably the last thing you guys want to see, we also have some, well, the bottle says F10 on it, but I'm pretty sure this is actually chlorhexidine because it's blue. All right, so you walk in the door, the first thing you see is this wall of enclosures here. So we took shoe boxes from Costco, basically added ventilation, turned them into gecko enclosures, and it worked pretty well. So we keep our grow outs and things that are like we're selling, so we're just holding them in these temporarily until they sell. I'll show you like what we keep hatchlings in a second, but hatchlings go from their hatchling enclosure usually into something kind of like this. I was afraid they would look small on camera, maybe they do, but in case you couldn't tell, they're actually very similar in dimension to a 12 by 12 by 18. Because of how we configured them, they're just not quite as tall, but they're deeper, I believe. Yeah, they're definitely a bit deeper than 12 by 12 by 18, but a little bit less height. This top row up here is actually like all these are empty actually. So there's nothing in these top ones. So what's really cool about these is they have magnets. So they're really easy to open and close, which as you can probably guess is also a complete nightmare because they're really easy to open and close. They do have like a little bit of resistance, you know? So we weren't sure if geckos would be able to open them, but geckos can open them. Some geckos can open them. We've had like a few geckos specifically that could consistently open them, which isn't the end of the world because at night we keep the door to this room closed. So if any gecko gets out of their enclosure, not that big of a deal because we find them pretty much immediately. So basically we taped most of these shut. 2, 4, 6, 8. Over here, 55, there's 55 of them. So as you can see to the right of these shoebox containers, we have this little rack of 18 6-quart tubs. And this is where we keep some of our hatchlings. And then right here on top of the rack, you can see we have a security camera that we use to monitor the gecko room. So PetCube was kind enough to partner with me and send me their PetCube Bites 2 Lite camera. I've partnered with PetCube in the past. They just have really cool pet security cameras. So what's really cool about the PetCube Bites 2, first of all, just like a lot of their other cameras, it's a treat dispenser, so you can put some treats in there and you can control it from your phone and you can dispense treats to your pets. Now, obviously, this is going to ideally work best with things like cats and dogs, not so much geckos. So I don't use that feature to throw anything at my geckos, believe it or not. but if you have cats or dogs, it's perfect for that. It was really quick and easy to set up. It has a really wide angle lens. It's 160 degrees. So from where it is, I can see practically the entire gecko room. It's actually incredible. There's also night vision. There's two-way audio, and it has a noise canceling microphone. So you can actually like talk to your pets and you can also hear them if they're making any sound. There's 8x digital zoom, and there's also pet detection. So it uses motion and sound to detect when your pet is around, and it can notify you. So I'll have PetCube linked down in the description below if you guys are interested in checking out any of their pet security cameras. I would highly recommend them. I've been using them for years and they work really well. And a huge thanks to PetCube for partnering with me and sending me their PetCube Bites 2 Lite. With all that being said, pet security camera. And then we also have this rack. These are all 6-quart tubs. This rack holds 18 of them. And then when the hatchlings are too big for these tubs, we move them up to the Costco shoe boxes. We also have the 12x12x18s, which I'm going to show you next. And then we also have the 18x18x24s, which I'll show you a little bit later. All right, so just to show you guys kind of an idea of what our hatchling tubs look like, pull this one out. You can see the little guy right there. For hatchlings that are like fresh out of the egg, we keep them on paper towel just to keep it as sterile as possible, monitor their poops, all that stuff. And then once they're a little bit more established, we move them into one of these, which is a more kind of bioactive-ish tub. As I'm sure you can imagine, when you have hundreds of gecko babies, keeping them all in paper towel is a nightmare. We used to. And I decided, why not just keep them on bioactive dirt? So I use the BioDo Fauna substrate for our crested geckos, which I'm sure you guys know I have a code, Rugge10 for 10% off BioDo's website. But anyways, I use that, put springtails and isopods in here. There's a layer of leaf litter. And then we just use fake plants in these. I have like a little piece of cork for him to climb on. And see, he's just a little guy. How cute he is. He's so small. You can see like he has plenty of space to do everything he needs to do in there. He can climb around, jump, hide, do all his little gecko activities. So to the right of where we just were, we have a wall of 12x12x18 exoterras and a few Zilla enclosures. We literally got most of these off of Facebook Marketplace because Facebook Marketplace is a great place to get enclosures. I would highly recommend. So we have 19 on this wall, I believe. So these enclosures again contain some subadult geckos and also some of our breeders. Disclaimer time for our gecko enclosure sizes. If you have a pet crested gecko, 18x18x24 all the way, 99% of geckos do wonderfully in an 18x18x24. However, when you are breeding geckos, sometimes bigger is not better. The reason for that, we've just found in our experience, and trust me, other breeders also experience this, that in larger enclosures, it's harder to get geckos to maintain their weight, especially if you're breeding them. Because when you're breeding geckos, sometimes they kind of go off food or don't eat as much. Keeping them in a little bit of a smaller enclosure, like a 12x12x18, just helps them maintain weight better and eat a little bit more consistently. Especially females, it's really important for them to maintain weight because they're producing eggs and it uses a lot of calcium and nutrients. If they're not maintaining weight properly and eating enough, they can calcium crash and die, which we don't want to happen. And then when they aren't breeding anymore, we do have 18x18x24s, which are on the other side of the room, which I'm gonna show you. And we also have 18x18x24s in our basement that we also keep geckos that aren't currently breeding in. So that's my enclosure size disclaimer. We would just rather have our geckos like consistently maintain a healthy weight in a little bit of a smaller enclosure than we would necessarily like to keep them in normally, as opposed to being like, oh no, this is mean, give them big enclosure and pray that they don't calcium crash and die. And we do have some geckos that we keep in 18x18x24 size enclosures while they're breeding, and they do fine and they eat fine and they're like still maintaining weight. But just certain geckos do better in this size enclosure, just from our experience. I always have people who are like, well, how do they eat in the wild? How do they survive in the wild? And it's like, some of them don't survive in the wild. Remember when we thought that crested geckos were extinct because we couldn't find them? Anyways, so yeah, these are all bioactive, beautiful, love it. This orange bucket that you see in the corner is the reservoir We have a Mist King, connects to all of these exoterras. There's more exoterras over there I'm going to show you in a second. And then we also have a unit of custom enclosures where some of those get misted as well. So the Mist King is really nice. Makes our lives so much easier. We're gonna turn back around to the left of those Costco shoeboxes. We have this little baker's rack, which holds 8 12 by 12 by 18 exoterras. The bottom two do contain crested geckos. You cannot see the ones at the very bottom. And the rest of these are other things that are not crested geckos, which I'm really excited to talk about because they're really freaking cool. So this enclosure in the very top actually does not have geckos in them. These actually are Maddie's clown tree frogs. Surprise amphibian in the gecko room. Over here in this top enclosure, which you cannot see, but I'll get some footage, is our trio of Cyrtodactylus elok, also known as Malaysian bent-toed geckos. They're really funky geckos, and they honestly have so much personality. They're really cool. So I think I showed you we have a baby from them on the cart, and then we also have another baby that we produced that is like almost full grown now, honestly. We also have a bunch of eggs from them incubating, so they're really freaking cool, and I'm really excited to be producing them, and hopefully we can have some available. Moving down, so these two enclosures contain our day geckos. So this guy over here is Gary, and he's our Phelsuma ornata. He will literally jump out and like jump onto my arm and then run and just jump and go away. So I've posted videos, I think, to my Instagram story of me like with a net trying to catch him from the wall. So he's chaotic, to say the least. I haven't had him escape recently though, but I will say, I do have a net now, just in case. There's another net on the cart too. You never know when you're gonna need a net in the gecko room. Next to him, we have our Legodactylus williamsi. In other words, electric blue day geckos. You have a pair in here, so the male is the one that's bright blue, and then the female is just kind of like brown, but she's adorable too. Compared to Gary, they are so unproblematic. They've never tried to escape. Nothing. They just vibe. Then going down on this enclosure right here, we have our morning geckos. This is the enclosure where we keep our adult morning geckos. I have a bunch of egg laying tubes suction cupped to the sides of the enclosure for them to lay their eggs in. And then next to the morning geckos, we have our Pseudogekko smaragdinus, also known as the Polilo false geckos. These geckos are stunning, absolutely stunning. So they're these like, oh god, I thought one of them was like rotting on the floor, but it was just a shed that I saw in the corner of my eye. I have a trio of Pseudogekko smaragdinus. I have a couple babies that I'm raising up that were on the cart, like I said, and then I have eggs incubating right now. So they're another one that I'm really excited for. They're just so beautiful. They are also like very problematic as far as trying to run out of the enclosure. These little micro geckos, guys, just they keep you on your toes. So yeah, those are all of those. So then over here, kind of to the left of the exoterras that I just showed you, we have, these are actually all snakes. In case you couldn't tell, we do not keep geckos in these. So this one on the top is the pied musarana. Maddie made the background, and you can kind of tell it has like spooky vibes. And one of the hides is a coffin, and there's a little tube that goes down, and you can actually see the area down here where the tube leads to. You might remember this design from the Snake Discovery build-off, where we built an enclosure with a coffin that had a tube that went down into a viewing area in the ground. This enclosure came first, and we decided to recreate it sort of for the Snake Discovery build-off. Yeah, that's where we keep the pied musarana. These two enclosures are corn snakes. So this is Ophelia, a pewter corn snake, and the background is made by Aqua Decor, and it's just such an incredible background. I just love their backgrounds so much. So yeah, that's Ophelia, and then below Ophelia we have Saturn, the sun-kissed ghost corn snake. An absolute nut job, so mean. Meanest corn snake I've ever seen, ever. But like honestly iconic, and we love him. So there's that. And again, Aqua Decor background, incredible. It has this really cool skull detail, and Saturn always hides inside of the skull, like behind the eyes. It's so adorable. Yeah, those are the snakes that we keep in this gecko room. So then over here to the left of the enclosures that I just showed you with the snakes, and directly across the room from the 12 by 12 by 18 exoteras, we have this wall of 18 by 18 by 24 exoteras. There's a couple geckos that were not breeding in these enclosures, and then some of them have our breeder males that do fine in 18 by 18 by 24s. Again, all bioactive, and like I think I mentioned earlier, we also have a bunch of 18 by 18 by 24s in our basement that we also keep geckos in that aren't breeding. A lot of the enclosures in this room also were pretty recently replanted. So some of them look kind of bare and just weird because the plants haven't grown in yet. So then in some of those enclosures also, I added like fake plants towards the top to try to fill in some of the space. And then I can go show you our unit over here. So then over here, we have this unit of custom enclosures that we had made. So 6 in the top row, 6 in this row, and then 4 and 4. It's hard to tell the dimensions. I honestly don't even remember the exact dimension. They look kind of smaller than they actually are because the door is smaller than the actual enclosure. These ones, I know they're about the dimensions of a 12 by 12 by 18, but they're actually a little bit bigger. And the bottom 2 rows are bigger, and they're about 18 by 18 by 24, about a little bit bigger than that. And then the top row is all bioactive, and then all of the other ones are paper towel. So in these ones, we have, again, more of our breeders, just kind of depending. And then the paper towels just make it a lot easier for laying females because we can put a lay box in there and then they lay in the lay box, and it makes finding the eggs a lot easier. We do have some enclosures where we have substrate and we just let the females lay and we monitor them and then we dig for the eggs. So this unit was made by Wisconsin Custom Cages. All right, so last but not least, the unit is right here. So like to the left of the unit. So when you walk in the door, like I was saying, I'm trying to like give you a visualization of this room. This is the door. When you walk in to the right, those are the 12 by 12 by 18 exoteras, 18 by 18 by 24s. The unit's right here. The shoe boxes are straight ahead. But to the right of the door, as soon as you walk in, there is this very janky, messed up rack that I made just to last us until we could get more actual professional ones made by people who know what they're doing. It works, but this holds 27 geckos. And then we have these 2 shoe boxes from the Container Store. We used to have a bunch of these, but this tab that you pull to open them, these break off after a while. So these are the last 2 remaining. This one, it did break off, and now we just use tape. But yeah, that's why we moved to the Costco ones, but these are smaller. So we just use these for like the in-between size for a couple geckos. And then we have these 2 exoteras, 8 by 8 by 12, I think. This one has a baby Cyrtodactylus elok in it, which is now probably more like a subadult and needs to be upgraded because he's just about outgrown this and probably needs to go up to like a 12 by 12 by 18. In this one, we have the morning gecko babies. That's basically everything for the gecko room. And then I also have more of these makeshift racks. Not this big though, they're a little bit shorter. They're also like in the hallway over here where we keep a bunch more of our hatchlings.
So as you can see, my mic was not plugged in when I filmed the outro, which is really awesome. So anyways, that's it for the gecko room tour. Thank you guys so much for watching. Once again, don't forget to check out PetCube, which will be linked down in the description below, where I'll also have all my other discount codes and affiliate links if you want to check out any of those. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.